Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Learning Curve SG podcast, the podcast where we talk about anything and everything, not just regarding PE, but also learning as well. Today, I'm very glad to have our Special Education Needs Officer, Miss Karen Zainal, over
Hi,
here
hello.
to share with us about some strategies to support teachers in the learning of students with special needs in our classroom. So thank you so much, Karen, for joining us today.
Thank you, Damon, for
Yeah,
having me.
all
I'm
right.
excited to
Yeah,
talk
I
about
think
this.
supporting the learning of special needs students is very heavy on the minds of many teachers. So it's really good that you're here on today's episode to share with us some of the strategies that can help our teachers to help those students with special needs to learn better in the classroom.
Sure.
But maybe before we go into the strategies on how to support the learning of special needs students, can you share with us briefly what drew you to working with students with special needs in the education sector?
Sure. Okay, where should I begin? In general, I think when I was thinking about career paths,
Okay.
I wasn't sure what to do, but I knew that I wanted to do something that would challenge my creativity on a day-to-day basis, something that helps people, and something that would get me out of bed even on the worst days. Yeah,
All right.
so education seemed like a natural choice, but I realized that I wasn't quite interested in a specific subject area, but rather it was a more general curiosity about how students learn, like students with different kinds of minds and preferences, how they learn best. So that brought me to special education.
Right.
So for the past, for 8 years, I was teaching in a special education school, and so in a way, I'm quite new to the mainstream education landscape as a staff. This is my second year here as an SEN officer, and yeah, so it's been a learning journey for me as well to see us trying to become more inclusive as a school. Because I think we're moving away from this a very rigid dual education system where you either go to a special education or you go to the mainstream, right? Now mainstream is broadening to be, we want to see it as inclusive.
Right. Okay, so can I say that you have this interest to see mainstream schools being more inclusive for students with special needs to learn together with regular students?
Yes, and in a way, I feel like it's not just some lofty ideal to benefit solely the students with special needs.
Right.
I really believe that if education system or schools in general were truly inclusive, it will benefit everybody. Like it will benefit all learners. It will even benefit teachers.
Yeah.
And then if you think very macro, right? If we want Singapore to be an inclusive society, we cannot have schools not be inclusive because that's where students are learning to work, play together with people who are different from them.
Yeah, I agree with you. If we want to see ourselves as a cohesive society, then we should allow people who might behave a little bit differently, all right, to be integrated together with mainstream cohort of people and do things together as a cohesive unit lah.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. I think that's about that for our introduction. Okay. Maybe shall we move on to the next topic on misconceptions. Can you share with us what are some misconceptions that people usually have about students with SEN that you often encounter?
Okay, when I thought about this question, there were a few that came to mind. The first one being there's this misconception that we should not support them too much, especially in a mainstream school. So that is a misconception that goes like, if we support them too much, then they are not going to be prepared for the quote unquote real world. And then without our support, they will just not be able to survive or thrive. But I think it would be good for us to pause and really re-examine the validity of this assumption. And I like to think of the analogy of learning how to swim. if we recognize that swimming is a set of skills,
Yep.
you can't just throw the child into a pool and say, well, out in the ocean, they will have no coach, no float, no nothing. So now we cannot give them any float and then expect them to just figure out how to do it.
Yeah.
Right. So I feel it's the same for many students with diverse learning or social emotional needs. Like if we see it through the lens of they have certain missing skills, then we would not be so hesitant to support or even over support. We support them in developing emotional regulation. We don't just leave them there to try to, you have to learn to calm down by yourself because next time nobody can co-regulate with you. Or we won't, if the missing skill could be like inability to manage time and deadlines, we have to equip them with those skills and practice it with them. Then as they experience more success together with your support, they will also grow in their confidence and willingness to be able to apply out those skills more independently in the future.
Yeah.
So that is number one. Do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I totally agree with you because I think when we help someone to learn something, right, there has to be some support. Yeah, but of course we shouldn't over support. Why is that so? Because let me use maybe also another analogy of maybe riding a bicycle. If we just throw the person into the deep end and ask the person to ride the bicycle on his own or her own, the person may not be able to do it, or even if when he tries and he keeps failing, he will give up. So there has to be some support there to guide the person on how to actually go about riding that bicycle properly lah. Yeah. So I totally agree with you that there has to be some support given to the student, even with for those with special needs, to help them learn the things that they're supposed to learn. Yeah. So what was the next thing that you want to mention about the misconceptions?
Oh, sorry but to add on to that,
Okay.
it seems like because you said we cannot over support also, which I also agree. So I think the key is that when we do provide that support, we have to be thinking long term, right? We have to think about how this will translate to them acquiring that skill and how this can eventually lead to a certain level of independence. Yeah, so you're right that we cannot over support also in the sense that it cannot be stagnant.
Yeah, eventually my hope is for the person to pick up the learning on his own or her own. Yeah, so we can maybe help by giving the supporting wheels on the bicycle so that the person is able to actually ride the bicycle properly. But as he or she grows more confident with the cycling, then perhaps we can slowly take out the supporting wheels for that person to ride on the bicycle on two wheels on his own or her own lah. Yeah.
And yet, also sometimes for many like neurodivergent children, adults, our capacity to do things independently can fluctuate, right? So in a way, even after you have learned to ride without a bicycle, you may occasionally find yourself still needing to have the training wheels. And then, but even that can be a form of self-advocacy. When you need the extra support, then you can ask for it. And I think that is also progress compared to when another person has to rush to your aid.
Yeah.
So seeking the support that you need is also one of the important skills that they could acquire.
Yeah, and we should encourage our students to do that, and especially the students with special needs, because some of them might not know how to go about doing it. They might think that doing it, might be embarrassing or whatever, but we have to let them know that, by asking for help, right, it's not a sign of weakness, but something, but more of actually strength.
Yes,
to help themselves grow in their learning.
Yeah, self-advocacy is definitely a strength and a skill.
Yeah.
So the second misconception that I was thinking of is a little bit on the other end of the spectrum. Because the first one was about how the misconception of we should not support too much. On the other hand, another common misconception is to not dare to set high expectations. Sometimes we tend to be overly aware maybe we mean well, we are overly aware of their challenges, we're overly aware of their areas of difficulty, then we have very limiting beliefs about what they can achieve, right? And one helpful thing to keep in mind to help combat this tendency is to remember that many students or even any individuals with special needs or neurodivergence, whatever we call it, have what we call a spiky skills profile. Like spiky in the sense that the first thing we might notice might be all the parts that where they are performing so-called lower than average, or maybe just an example, ability to regulate emotions is low. Maybe social skills is a bit on the lower end also, or maybe, I don't know, time management is low. And then we might accidentally draw too many conclusions based on those so-called like lower data points.
Okay.
But if we realize that, hey, actually maybe they have a spiky skills profile,
Right.
we might notice that they can actually perform really well in other areas. Maybe in spite of those low points, they are actually very high in logic and rational thinking. Maybe they are actually very driven once they have this like area of interest. Just some examples. So I think that is a helpful visual that I try to keep in mind each time if I find myself with a tendency to box a student mostly based on their challenges, to remind myself that I need to know what are their strengths also. And sometimes these strengths are being hidden or buried or masked because they are in an environment that is causing them to be dysregulated, then they cannot show their strengths.
Yeah, this is very similar to this teaching philosophy in differentiated instruction, where we teach up to our students. So we set high achievable expectations for the students that we are teaching, but we provide scaffolds to the learners, to the various learners within the classroom, for them to reach that particular objective that we have set for them. And on top of that, they can have different modes of learning to get to the objectives as well. Yeah. So they have choices on how they go about learning, how they want to display what they have learned.
It's like universal design.
Yeah. But in that entire process, we provide scaffolds, okay, for them, so that we support their growth in the learning itself. So it's very similar to that idea which I came across in differentiated instruction.
I can suddenly recall there was a student I had worked with years ago with selective mutism.
Okay.
And she also on paper had a mild intellectual disability, but mainly we tend to judge her abilities based on the fact that she wasn't communicating. But one day, like by accident, not really accident, it was around COVID period, and just so happened that for oral presentations now they could no longer do it in person, so we were exploring doing Zoom presentations, and we were blown away by how eloquently she expressed her ideas even without much of a script. So that was like a bit of a wake-up call for me, like to not judge a student's abilities too much by their areas of struggle, but to dig deeper and approach with more curiosity.
So it really goes back to finding opportunities and spending time to know our students well.
Yes.
Regardless whether they have special needs or not. But I would say that, perhaps for students with special needs, we might need to spend a little bit more time to get to know them. So that we can, like you rightfully mentioned, notice, okay, some of the good things that they have actually done, and work on those positive things that they have done to help them achieve a similar level of learning to what regular students are supposed to be doing as well.
Then once you identify those so-called like rare moments where they
Mhm.
shine, then we should make them not rare by
Yeah.
creating more opportunities.
Yeah. I agree with you. So can I say there are two main misconceptions?
Mhm.
One is not to set high expectations for them, and the second is not to support too much for students with special needs.
Yeah,
So
those
these
would
are
be
the
the
two,
two.
right?
If
So
there were time, I would share one more, but up to you.
sure. Please go ahead.
Yeah, one more misconception that I
Mhm.
thought might be worth discussing
Okay.
is our fear of talking about their diagnostic label in front of them.
Mm.
So, to be fair, I guess as a caveat, it's really a case by case basis because indeed you may have some instances where the parents have chosen not to disclose the diagnosis to their own child. So, of course, that is a separate matter. But for the majority of students with SEN who are aware of their diagnosis, sometimes the adult, again, we might be well-meaning. We might think we don't want to mention this diagnosis because we don't want them to think that we are labeling them. But I feel like a label is only disempowering if it is limiting. But if we think about it, could it be empowering? Because if I were a student, let's say I am a student with dyslexia, for example, and every time I consult my teacher, they don't seem to acknowledge that I have dyslexia. It might be something that's unspoken in the teacher's minds, but because it is not acknowledged, I might be wondering, do the teachers really know the extent of my struggles? And do they really know that in spite of these struggles, they really believe that I can? They might not feel fully seen and understood and accepted and believed in. So, but where I think acknowledging a label could not, again, I don't want to use label, acknowledging the diagnosis could be empowering is if it helps us to accurately see and assess and acknowledge to the student the areas that, yes, I know that this may seem, you might be frustrated that this seems so easy for your classmates, but it's difficult. And I understand why, because this. But to not stop there, to also know the strengths that are associated with having that condition. Because nowadays, in the world of inclusive education, neurodiversity, we are moving towards a more strength-based mindset. So there is more of a drive towards also recognizing the strengths that are associated with various conditions. And these are not just nice platitudes. Like it is indeed, proven by research. For example, again, to talk about dyslexia as an example, that they tend to be more creative, innovative, more empathetic, better verbal communicators, things like that, right? So when we can even, because I don't know what kinds of ideas these students grow up with, what kind of relationship they have with this diagnostic label, especially if they received it at a young age. Right? I don't know whether they themselves see it as something that is limiting. But if we, as the adults who believe in them, can also draw their attention to the aspects in which, your strengths are not random. You're not strong in spite of this. In fact, like this thing is almost like your superpower too. They have given you some areas of challenge, but they have also made you so special in these ways. And then hopefully that can help them form a more confident, self-compassionate identity as they continue to move forward in life.
I guess it's good to do that and be honest with the student about his diagnosis or her diagnosis, because if the student perceives that you are honest, he or she may also perceive that you are someone who is more trustworthy as well. Because you come from an angle of wanting to work with the students on the issues that he or she has or have. And it's also coming from a strength-based approach where we've helped them focus on the superpowers, which you have mentioned that they have, and using their strengths to actually improve their learning and grow as a person. I think that will really help build that relationship between you as the adult who is actually providing the support with that student. Yeah, but if you as the adult keeps telling the student that you're okay, you have no issues,
you just have to try harder.
yeah, I think that particular student with the special needs would probably also know in due time that you are not being really serious in helping him or her. I mean, I'm just assuming that possibility.
Yeah, possible, yeah.
Yeah. So I think what you have shared about being honest, okay, with the students in terms of his or her diagnosis, okay, is a good point, a good starting point, okay, in the conversations that you'll be using with him or her in supporting in his or her development. Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe if a teacher were to want to do this, but they hesitate to because they're worried about saying something that's not true, it's okay. You can learn first, right? Like these days, information is so readily available, and also having at least one SEN officer in your school, you can have a chat about it first, and then just grow in your own passion and confidence to be able to tackle this issue.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, so thank you for your sharing again. So we have, I think, brought forth this misconception of the fear of discussing of the diagnosis in front of students with special needs. And I think from what we have discussed, right, we shouldn't have that fear. Yeah, we should bring it forth and be honest about it so that conversations are easier between ourselves and the students. Okay. And all right, now we are done with the second part, misconceptions, and maybe let's move on to the third part of our conversations on strategies. Perhaps can you share with us what are some of the strategies that our teachers could use to support the students in eliciting their focus and attention, as well as support them in their engagement in learning for the various types of special needs that you see in the classroom?
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So before we dive into specific strategies, I think it might be helpful to first explore what are the main reasons the students may struggle with attention and focus and or engagement in learning, as you were saying. So I think sometimes it could be because they are genuinely struggling to filter out distractions. So it's really struggling to be able to pay attention, even if they wanted to. But sometimes it's not that. Sometimes it could be a lack of emotional safety, a lack of self-belief. They've already come to a state where after experiencing so much failure and adverse experiences in learning, they feel, what's the point? So the motivation is and engagement is lacking because of such emotional and psychological reasons. So I think if we have those in mind, then we can make sure that the strategies we discuss sort of try to address those possible reasons. I think the first thing that comes to mind is not quite a strategy per se, but it's very relevant to what you were just talking about with regard to teacher and student relationships. I think it is key before we go into pragmatic strategies to first establish or strive to have that good rapport with that student or students with special educational needs. Of course, you want to have everybody, but like you said, sometimes it's even more critical to get this right earlier, right, for the students with special needs. Because at least there are many things that could be, many varying factors that might affect how a lesson goes, but the moment you have positive rapport and relationship, I'm sure you know from your experience that a student will do anything for a teacher, or even be willing to do engage in subjects that they are not that interested in if they look up to the teacher and they trust the teacher, right? So that is a good foundation. There's that trust with the teacher, so they know that even if I'm struggling, even if I don't understand, later I'm not going to be shamed for it. I can always ask them and they will help me very willingly. So the second one would be also not a strategy per se. Again, sorry, this is like a prelude. Is the classroom culture, because when we're talking about the emotional safety of the student, the learner, the rapport with the teacher alone is not sufficient. Right? I can really be so fond of my teacher, but then I don't feel safe in this class because I have classmates who look down on me. I have classmates who make fun of the way I behave. You know, that is another factor that may be causing me to not want to engage, to not feel invested, or a sense of belonging. So I feel that another important foundation that the adult can strive to build is to have an inclusive classroom culture. And maybe you might have some ideas, but what I can think of is, first and foremost, the idea of being inclusive should explicitly be a class value. Right? We cannot just hope and pray that we happen to get a bunch of students who are empathetic and who will be open, patient, welcoming, and all this. So it could be clearly communicated that, you know, this is our class value, to always prioritize communal goals over individualistic goals. So like being helpful, being patient, being celebrating everybody's strengths, that kind of thing. And yeah, so do you have some thoughts on how, because you've also had many years of being a form teacher?
So maybe let me just throw you a question. Let's say if that particular student with special needs, right, is really disruptive because maybe due to him or her being on the spectrum,
or hyperactive,
or being hyperactive, being very disrupt because of either being very hyperactive or because they are on the spectrum and they are disrupting the class all the time. Can we still expect the rest of the classmates to still be inclusive towards that person?
I think it would be a more challenging journey, but I think it is possible. So it might be helpful, again, especially with the parents' consent. If like maybe without that particular student there, you can have some honest conversations with the rest of the class who might be experiencing frustration, or just I cannot understand why we allow this student to come every day and cause this disruption. To maybe help them see it from a different perspective of, let's say, firstly drawing the classmates' attention to the strengths that this student does have, but then also drawing attention to the skills that are still lacking in this student that he is struggling to acquire. It could be impulse control, it could be social skills, and from there to slowly open their mind to how in this inclusive school, we want to give everybody a chance to develop the skills that they are currently lacking, right? So you can liken it to other kinds of things where we all have different degrees of skills, such as sports. Not everyone is athletic, but we give everybody a chance to do PE. Or so sometimes maybe children and it's completely understandable developmentally to not see social skills as a skill. They just assume that you should all know how to behave, you should all know to not be annoying. But maybe, hopefully, over time, and also through seeing the way you as a teacher interact fairly with a student, that when you have to be clear about consequences because they really have gone against the very explicit behavior expectation, you do that. But at the same time, you are also always welcoming and giving the student a fresh chance. You're giving them the support that they need. I think over time, it could, the seeds of inclusivity could sprout, but it probably will take time.
And I agree with you that it will take time because seems like what you have shared would mean that the teacher needs to spend time, not just to work with the students with special needs to help the student learn on certain social norms, expectations, and routines within the school community, within the classroom community, but also spending time to educate and get the buy-in from the rest of the classmates to understand why the student with special needs behave the way he or she behaves.
And we can do it without using labels unless the parent is open to that being shared, or the student themselves.
So it's working with all the stakeholders involved, the students with special needs, the rest of the regular students, the parents of the students with special needs. And I guess this takes time. And this takes patience. But I think these interactions results in positive communication, which therefore results in better understandings amongst all the various parties that are involved in the community, which, like you rightfully mentioned, lays the groundwork on using the strategies which I think you will be sharing later on, because the foundation is about building trust. The foundation is about building a positive class culture, which is an inclusive class culture. And why we need to have this is because we want our society, we want Singapore to have a greater and a better social compact. Better social cohesion. So in order for that to happen, all right, we need to build trust, we need to build inclusive class culture, but that requires work, and the work is the time spent in helping all the stakeholders understand each other better and understand social norms better.
And when we think about an inclusive school, like it really cannot be only the school leaders and the teachers, right? Like the vast majority of the school community are the students.
So we shouldn't jump into strategies immediately, right? I think it's similar to what I've always shared with the teachers. We don't jump into pedagogy immediately. We build our positive class culture, our positive discipline, our interaction and rapport first before going into pedagogy, because I think that is even more foundational than pedagogy itself.
And going back to the idea that an inclusive class benefits everybody, it's not just an act of charity for the student with a certain diagnosis. Hopefully, everybody will really start to experience that, if we can all be accepting of these particular students whose needs may be a bit more obvious, then surely that means I also can let my guard down as a student. I know that in this space, I am accepted by my teacher, by my friends. I don't have to be afraid of failure, and everybody will, just start to be more open to recognizing different kinds of strengths and knowing how to work and be supportive towards all kinds of different people.
And I guess everyone is happier that way as well. So, can you maybe now share with our audience, what some strategies that teachers can use? Because now that we have laid the foundation.
Yes, okay. So, the first one is, I think, something that you also strongly believe in, because I've seen in your podcast earlier episodes, the importance of routines and lesson classroom expectations. So it is important for all students, beneficial for all students, but especially for students with different learning, social, emotional needs. So routines also provide that sense of safety and stability, because we don't know whether they might be very dysregulated from something that happened in the earlier lesson, or there's just something else that is causing maybe a sensory overwhelm, or certain anxiety that they may be carrying from an earlier social interaction or something, right? But there can be safety in the predictability of having a lesson where the routine, and the classroom expectations are not something that they have to guess and read between the lines. Like they know exactly how this teacher expects me
Clear.
to, maybe I'm supposed to raise my hand before I speak, or this is a teacher who allows me to ask for more time to think when they ask me a question. So all these kind of expectations that are made very explicit to the entire class. So there's no second guessing that creates unnecessary anxiety. Then the second one is the power of visuals, which is in part why we have this whiteboard here today.
Okay.
Actually, this is something that is very widely practiced in special education schools, but I can see how it would be useful anywhere, even for adults.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's a name. You could call it a visual schedule, but I usually refer to it in the context of a classroom as a lesson progress checklist. So today, we just happen to have listed broadly our conversation topics, right? But in the context of a lesson, it could be the sequence of activities for the day. Maybe the teacher's going to start with an introduction to a new topic, and then after that, he's going to do a demonstration on how to tackle this new type of question. And after that is a guided practice or pair practice. Then after that is independent work. Then maybe there's a short break. Or then you're going to end with a game or something like that, right? So having a lesson progress checklist is a very powerful visual, an example of a visual that also helps students to feel that sense of safety from knowing what to expect. So this can benefit so many different kinds of students. For a student who is anxious, maybe there's like this part of the lesson that they really don't like. They really don't like pair work. But then at least it's just one small part of the lesson. After that, I can look forward to the independent work, you know? Or maybe for a student who is hyperactive, still want to keep trying to change the topic or talking off topic, the teacher can always refer again to the lesson progress checklist and say, this is what we are doing now. Maybe you can save your energy for the game later. Yeah. And in general, for students who may be lacking engagement or motivation for other reasons, also having some kind of clean roadmap gives a bit of a sense of assurance that this lesson is going somewhere. Somehow each time the teacher ticks, then you get a bit of a shock feeling from like, you know, I am
recently
contributing to the success. Oh, you tried it recently?
Yes.
Okay, you should say more later. They may not say it, but inside they feel they are contributing to the success of this lesson. Likewise, if the teacher is on the flip side, if the teacher were to be stuck on one part, then they also know they should adjust their behavior so that you want to see, like psychologically, you just want to see a checklist being completed by the end of the day, right? Yeah. And so I feel it also helps to build that sense of a shared responsibility in helping the teacher and the class see through the entire plan for the day.
Yeah. Apart from visuals, what else can the teachers use to support the students with SEN?
So when we're talking, because this helps with focus and engagement, another thing that I think would help is, apart from visuals, some audio cues, which we call attention signals. So it's very normal. You don't have to have ADHD to get distracted, right? Every student will get distracted at some point. Every student will daydream at some point, or get carried away during a chat. What was supposed to be quick, end up like talking for too long. So if you have a consistent and clear attention signal that the student knows, some teachers might do some kind of clap. Some teachers might do a certain call and they have to respond something. For me personally, I like to use a bell. So the student knows, I might say, okay, maybe, when I press this bell, you may start your discussion, and they discuss. And I would have told them that when they hear two bells, they have to stop. Right? So some kind of audio signal, I feel, is very helpful because there is some kind of sound in that classroom that they know has to cut above any other sound. Yeah, because if we just rely on the teacher shouting or raising their voice, it's very reactive and not intentional. And the bell could also be used for in other moments. For example, you are teaching something very, very content heavy. Then you finally reach a slide where there is very, very important information. Maybe it's a summary or main points. You ring the bell 3 times and then announce that what I'm going to say now is very important. So even if the student had dozed off for a few minutes, maybe that could be their little moment to adjust their to like just muster up their remaining energy to pay attention to that one slide. Yeah, so there's that. Other thoughts that I had in mind in terms of strategies. Now, this is more to do with like deeper engagement in learning.
Yeah.
Is to make sure that the content is very relatable. And there are many. Most students have deep empathy within them, even if they don't show it. So I think it's very good to weave in stories with high human interest to be like injustice, resilience, overcoming odds, like real life stories.
Okay.
Yeah. So, or even better, and this could be riding upon your rapport with them, telling stories from your own life.
Yeah.
So that is one way to gain the emotional investment.
Yeah.
Another aspect of relatability could be, when the concept is extremely abstract, to try to find ways to make it as concrete as possible, be it through the use of hands-on activities, manipulatives, games. Yeah, so I guess there are different kinds of relatability. One is emotional, the other is experiential. Both even better.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, when I told the students why I had hair loss, they were really interested. So it's not just the regular students, even the boys with SEN within my class. Got really interested as well.
Sure.
So I think if we are able to share something that they're supposed to learn in a lesson that is related to maybe my own life story, it may catch their interest as well, because it pulls their heartstrings.
Yeah.
Then on top of that, I think you also shared that having hands-on experience would be better for them, because if they are able to do something in their learning, then I think they relate back to the idea that it is something practical.
Yes.
Yeah, it might be something
It's also
practical.
more memorable.
Yeah, which therefore engages them better during the learning process. You have mentioned like 4 or 5 strategies already.
Yeah.
Seems like these strategies might not be something that teachers are unfamiliar with.
Yes.
But it feels like we have to be more explicit in using them when we are supporting the learning with students. So when we are supporting the learning of students with special needs.
Yeah.
Am I correct to say that?
Yes. I intentionally brought this up because it is something that you don't have to go out of your way to do. Like you say, teachers already intuitively know that these things are important and can help many students. But it's about being very intentional, being very explicit, and being very consistent in doing those things.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not just ad hoc. Today I will write down today I have a visual, but then just because I happen to have a visual, so I'll show, but then on other lessons I don't have. Or like you say, I happen to come across this interesting story, so I'm going to share, but other days are very dry. But if you are more intentional and more explicit about it, you could be intentionally finding ways to weave it into every single lesson.
Okay. Are there a few more strategies which you happen to have in mind to share, apart from expectations and routines, power of visuals, audio cues, relatable content such as stories and hands-on activities?
Other strategies at the back of my mind might be a lot more specific to certain types of SEN. So maybe I would just add in a quick note where the teacher can be advised to be in regular communication with the SEN officer, especially if he or she is working closely with a certain student. Then whatever strategies are being used during their intervention sessions could possibly be So simple example could be the use of certain tools. Like maybe there's a student with dyslexia who likes to use these colored reading strips to reduce the visual fatigue. So again, like these are all, or maybe a student with the hyperactive kind of ADHD who needs more movement breaks. You know, so these are a bit more individualized as opposed to the strategies we talked about earlier, which could benefit everybody.
I guess it would be I guess our conversation would really stretch into the middle of the night if we were to discuss every single strategy.
Yes, so I feel like what we have discussed, the two foundations, right, of rapport and inclusive class culture, plus a few practical strategies, is a really good starting point.
Right. So key thing, always check in with your SENO officers, to know what are the individualized strategies that we may need to support students with special needs, because different students with special needs may need different types of intervention. Am I right?
Yes, agree.
Okay. But before we go into our key takeaways of today's conversation, can you share a little bit with regards to how teachers who are very new, especially in the teaching service, like the beginning teachers, can build their confidence and skills in supporting the students with SEN? Because I think what we've shared so far probably will resonate with the teachers with more experience. Can you maybe share a little bit more how new teachers can build their confidence and skills?
Sure. I think my first advice would be to try to approach every student and their any challenging behavior with a stance of curiosity as opposed to judgment. And judgment includes like self-judgment. I think sometimes what affects our confidence in approaching a certain student could be deep down we feel like if we fail to engage that student, it reflects poorly on us. It means we are not skillful enough, we are not experienced enough. That, or there may be also a judgment of the student. Like earlier on, we said, right, like we may have very limiting beliefs about the student. So it's a bit of both, but I think my main advice is to approach with curiosity, to always believe that there is more than meets the eye, that is like to want to understand what is driving those surface level behaviors. And then also to know that this is not a solo journey, right? And I think that's also again the beauty of an inclusive school. In my time here so far, I find that it's been very, very collaborative. Like even though I am the SEN officer, when I work with a rather complex a student with a certain set of complexities, I find that I am never alone. Like it's a very collaborative journey with the form teachers, the rest of the student support team, the student management team. So to never feel like it is your responsibility alone to carry. Oh, and of course, like the students' parents or caregivers. And I think that can really take a lot of load off your shoulders. And finally, to just be open to learning and journeying together with a student. Because if you're struggling with a student, the student is also struggling, right? So to give yourself and the student grace, permission to not have it all figured out, and to just persist in your curiosity, empathy, and resilience in working together to build that rapport and trust with the student, to get to a point where he or she is cooperating and applying certain strategies. Then you get, so as much as you had struggled together with them, you will also taste success together with them. To know that it's not a linear journey as well. I think these are some helpful mindsets to keep in mind.
I agree totally that we first need to be curious. Because if we are curious, we will be able to find out a little bit more with regards to the solutions to the issues that we are facing. Then number two, ask for help,
Yeah.
because it's not a weakness to ask for help, but actually a sign of strength. Yeah. And when that happens, right, you open up communication links with people whom you're asking for help, and then you will find it naturally that people will come in and provide the necessary support. And together, all right, as a community, we can do more to help the students with special needs to actually learn better and flourish within the classroom, as well as the school community. But most importantly, we should have grace towards ourselves, be patient, and not to hit ourselves too hard if we don't succeed the first time round. And over time, right, things will definitely get better. And I think we will most likely be able to achieve the goals of seeing our students flourish and develop into someone who is confident and self-regulated in his or her learning. Yeah, even for the ones with special needs.
Yes.
Mm.
And we'll be thankful to have been a part of that journey.
Yes. Yeah. I think it's very satisfying to see that the seed that you have planted, okay, growing into a really beautiful plant or a very strong tree.
And often surpassing your expectations.
Correct.
Yeah. So that's why I really see it as growing alongside the student, because we are also growing during this process. Like we are challenging so many of our long-held misconceptions. We are challenging our creativity and innovation to keep trying new strategies.
And I think it goes back to really also constantly checking on our own beliefs in education, so that it helps us stay more resilient to do what we need to do, okay, in supporting every student, not just the ones with special needs, in developing into someone who is capable of learning for himself or herself.
One last thing that I will add to this point, that's related to the enjoying the journey is enjoy that relationship and rapport you build with that student. I think in my 8 years in special education and now 1.5 years in inclusive education, I've really been truly enriched, heartened, encouraged by how much so many of these students care for me. And oftentimes, really, the students who are neurodivergent have a higher degree of empathy for their teachers. They're the adults in their life who have shown them so much care and concern. And so I also find myself on the receiving end of their gifts.
Thank you for sharing that as well, because I really believe that after working with so many students who are neurodivergent, you are someone who is solid in the position of sharing the growth that you have seen in all the various students that you have been in charge of developing. Yeah. So thank you very much for sharing those things. And we have now completed the strategies on what we are discussing on, and we will now move into the final part, which is the key takeaways of our conversation. So, Karen, in all my episodes, right, I invite my guests to share some nuggets of wisdom or some words of advice to my audience. Can you kindly also share some key takeaways or nuggets of wisdoms which you may have, okay, in supporting the learning of students with special needs for our audience today?
Okay, I think I would sum up our key takeaways as number one, let's challenge ourselves to believe that inclusive education truly benefits everybody. That's number one. Number two, to always be open to challenging the misconceptions that we have about students with various diagnoses. So to not hold limiting beliefs, but to also recognize the power of long-term support that has long-term independence in mind. And number three, to approach even the most challenging behavior with a stance of curiosity rather than judgment. And that includes judgment towards ourselves. And last but not least, to always be open to learn, grow, adapt alongside our students.
Right. Thank you so much.
Thank
All right.
you.
I think you have really shared a lot, okay, for our audience today. But most importantly, we should always keep ourselves open to learn and approach all challenges with curiosity, because if we are curious, we are able to probably find out the solutions to the issues that we are facing. And yeah, I hope that everyone today has benefited from what Karen has shared. And so if you like today's episode, please give a like, share, and subscribe so that more teachers can benefit from today's content. So till next time, see you. Bye-bye.